Hi everyone, it's Roger here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. It is episode number 230. And this week we're going to be talking about all the big kind of changes going on with Marvel, big slowdown. We're also going to be talking about what's going to be coming up on Disney Plus in March and picking out some of our favorites. But before we get into any of that, just a quick bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do subscribe here on YouTube. You can also subscribe on all the different audio platforms as well. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook. Feel free to join our Facebook group. Also, a big thank you to our Patreon and YouTube channel members. Your support really helps so much because, especially like with like advertising, it just means that with your support, we can carry on doing all the podcasts and all the videos and stuff. So you can become a member from as little as $2. But let's start off with some news. So couple of little nuggets that I wanted to jump into before bring James in and we discuss some of this week's biggest news. So up first, just overnight, it was confirmed by Deadline that Big Shot and also the Mighty Ducks Game Changers have been cancelled after 2 seasons. They are not going to be returning. I'm going to be honest, I was not at all surprised with either of these cancellations. I'm just glad that it's out there now so that people don't kind of keep putting it in the comments and stuff on the official one because so many people are doing that one. Big Shot, I always felt that was when they did the binge drop, they literally dropped like one trailer, one poster, barely any publicity, and it was gone. And even the end of the series kind of felt a little bit like they've gone to college and it was open, but at the same time it kind of been wrapped up. And then when John Stamos said that he was this close to having the first season cancelled, and he managed to kind of talk Peter Rice around to kind of giving a second one while all the girls are still young enough to film it. So I wasn't at all surprised by that one. I think there's a similar problem maybe for the Mighty Ducks Game Changers. Of the kids are getting older, they had to make a decision. I don't think the second season was anywhere near as supported as well as the first one. There was hardly any publicity, very few like trailers or posters. It just seemed to get buried. I'll be honest, I completely I tried watching the second season. I think I got about 3 or 4 episodes in and I just gave up because I didn't think it was very good. I enjoyed the first 3 episodes of the first series. That was kind of before the pandemic hit, and then it kind of all went a little bit ropey, but it was okay. The second season was just so dull and full of cliches. I think losing Emilio Estevez really kind of hurt that show, but I wasn't at all surprised. But I'd love to know, what do you think of those 2 shows not coming back? 2 other shows that we're kind of waiting on to hear about are Willow. Obviously, they've teased that there's going to be 2 more seasons. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. And then we've got also National Treasure Edge of History. The good news is this past week on the Nielsen streaming charts, it did actually get on there. But however, the minutes were tiny. I mean, we're talking like 200-300 minutes. On most weeks, never would have made it on there. But it was just a really light week, and so it managed to get on there. So it did something Willow didn't do. But I'm still not entirely sure if that show is going to come back. Personally, I'd rather have more Willow because I thought that was at least a fun show and I enjoyed it. National Treasure Edge of History, it just didn't click with me. But yeah, I'd love to know, would you like to see both of those series come back? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Okay, let's also now talk a little bit about A Small Light. This is a brand new series coming from ABC National Geographic. It's going to be airing on the National Geographic channel in the US on the 1st of May, and then it's going to be arriving on Disney Plus the next day and has then been confirmed for other countries for the 2nd. So kind of like a global release, but National Geographic are getting it a day earlier. 2 episodes to begin with, new episodes weekly. I'm loving the fact that it's going to be coming out on Tuesdays. I think that's a good way of kind of pulling it away maybe from the Marvel and the Star Wars content and just kind of giving it a little bit of a breather. So I'm looking forward to that. Just a little bit different, and I always think that's kind of fun to have. And it looked a little bit more kind of serious, and that host show definitely kind of has caught my attention. Also, this past week, it was revealed that HBO content is going to be leaving at Disney Plus Hotstar in India. I'm no word yet on when that's going to be happening. They've been getting shows like this is The Last of Us, which I'm loving. I was watching an episode last night, and it was this horde and this big monster coming. It was great. I'm loving the series. I think it's fantastic. Even though I've played the game, I'm still really enjoying the series. So that's been there. And also in India, there has been a massive problem with Disney Plus Hotstar being down. Looks like there might have been a domain or DNS issues, which might have caused basically the whole thing to go down. There's still been some issues this morning with some people not being able to get onto it. But some of this just seems to be getting the DNS. Because I know when I do stuff, if I make a change on the website or you change service, sometimes it can take a day for things to get sorted. It takes so long for it to kind of populate around the world. So There we go. So that is some of this week's news. So let's just, before we jump into the conversation and bring James in, just a big thank you to our patrons and YouTube channel members, including Dana. We've also got Jonathan, DJ Frosttop, Ben, Tim, Chuck, David, Mahmoud, got Raphael, Adam, Ricky. We've also got My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Martin, and Sarah. And also a big hello over on Patreon for Babak, Paul, Daniel, you got Aero, Caleb, Red Mars Man, Cody, Jacob, Darren, Lauren, Sarah, the Giuseppe, and also Andrew. So thank you so much for your continued support. Okay, so let's jump into it. So we've got a couple of different topics we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about kind of what's going on with Marvel, the slowdown of content, films, etc. We'll also be taking a look at what's coming up on Disney Plus in March and sharing our thoughts on what we're looking forward to. We're just going to go through the highlights rather than everyone. And then also we're going to be doing a deep dive into our review of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but that'll be right at the end of the show. So we'll do that right at the end when we'll go into a bit of spoilers then. But there won't be any before that. Right, so let's start off. Let's start off talking. I think the main topic here today is the Marvel slowdown. This past week, Kevin Feige was on with, he did an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and he said that they're going to be slowing down the pace, slowing down the numbers shows. We're not going to have the same pace that's coming in. Report then from the Hollywood Reporter saying that it looks like we're only going to be getting Secret Invasion and Loki as the live action series. And there was a presentation during the quarterly results last week where they had X-Men 97 on it, the animated series. I think that one's safe for this year as well. But as a drastic change from the San Diego Comic-Con last year lineup, which had 5 live action series, I think 3 animated series, all the movies. But yeah, what are your first impressions when you hear of this slowdown?
I was a little disappointed actually, because I know a lot of people have been feeling kind of like overwhelmed with the number of series, but I've been enjoying having them come back to back. But it's probably for the best if it's going to help keep the quality up or improve the quality, depending on your thoughts on the matter. And as long as they can make them feel like they're shows that you should be watching, then I guess that's ultimately the best way to go about it. Because the 2 that we've got coming up this year definitely feel like they're much more relevant than, say, like Miss Marvel was or She-Hulk was last year.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think going down to 2 is like, oh, that's a bit tight. It's probably better to get at least one more in there and just kind of wean us off, because to go from 5 to 2 was quite a big drop. I'll be honest, I've kind of enjoyed having this break between the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special and Ant-Man. It was kind of quite nice to have a little bit of a breather, because it was like when the logo came up when I was watching the movie, it was like, it was like special. It was like, oh, I haven't seen this like brand new for a while. So that was kind of, I did enjoy that. I do think the thing is with this whole slowdown is that I think it's on so many different levels. First off, the money. These Marvel shows are expensive, and they are looking to save $3 billion. And some people kind of go, well, if they've already filmed them, they've already spent it. Just, yeah, with the saving they're going to make next year and this year, of essentially, you've got a massive pizza. You can feed so many people, but if you give everyone a slightly smaller slice, they can all have a little bit, it can go around a little bit more without spending any more money. So I basically look at this. I think we're probably going to end up with Agatha, Echo, and Ironheart next year in 2024. And I think Daredevil is going to be slunted back into 2025. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if they cut the amount of episodes in that one. I wouldn't be at all surprised if that ends up happening.
Yeah, we were kind of surprised at the number of episodes to begin with. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, though. I hope they don't. If the writing or the script writing has already gotten to the point where they're down to individual episodes, because that would be a pretty big rewrite to go. We had 18 episodes and now we have 12 or however many.
I mean, there's the only other thing I thought of, they might end up splitting that one into 2 and doing basically split it into 2 seasons and spreading it out, do like a bit of a strange things where they kind of spread them out. Also a little bit of discussion from Kevin Feige about doing like individual episodes, kind of like single stories. We saw a little bit of it with She-Hulk. I think they're very much learning of how they're going along, of not everything maybe has to be interconnected, and especially if longer episodes, is something that they can kind of jump into. But yeah, this whole kind of slowdown of Marvel, I was a little bit like, oh, that's a real slowdown, because they've also announced this week that the Marvels has shifted back to November the 10th from July, and now Haunted Mansion is going to release a week earlier. So again, that's another little bit of a wait. No word yet on any holiday specials. We also have heard that Nova, that's kind of slowed, but Wonder Man is set to start filming something, and they've not even officially announced that one yet.
I forgot about that one, to be honest. It'll be interesting to see who they get to play him. But that interconnected bit is the interesting one to me, because Marvel has always tried to make us feel like their shows and stuff are connected with the movies. So going back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and now into the more recent ones where, WandaVision leads into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
And to a very small extent, Loki led into Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. But having seen the movies, with no spoilers for Ant-Man, that it doesn't seem like it's necessary at all to have seen these shows at all. So they want you to be like, these shows are important, but then when you actually see the movie, it's like, oh yeah, these are the kids. You don't actually need to see it, but they're in the show if you want to know a little bit more.
It kind of just fills them out a little bit more. It fills it out. I think we're both like Doctor Strange and Ant-Man. It kind of helps fill out those characters a little bit more than we already know. So I think that does help. But I think Phase 4 has been such a weird little series. They drastically ramped up so much. There was so much content in Phase 4. People didn't, there was issues. Some people say of the quality. It wasn't quite up to the same standard that we saw with the first 3 phases. I personally felt the films were fine. Some of the series I could see where, we said like with Miss Marvel, it kind of got a bit wishy-washy in the middle. She-Hulk was all over the place in terms of quality. I enjoyed the show, and I actually liked the fact that it didn't feel quite so big. It felt a little bit more smaller. But I think that might be where they go. But yeah, I think we are drastically going to see a massive shift in, because I've seen people kind of saying like, oh, I'm not going to be subscribed. Well, it's like, yeah, well, you're going to get like Marvel. They're probably going to alternate much more now between the two. And I think they're definitely leaning in more on the linear stuff that they're making. But I think it was just inevitable. They could not keep that pace of Marvel content up indefinitely.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate in that regard, but as we've talked about in the past too, it's very hard to tell how much money a show brings in when it's on Disney Plus only. How do you calculate those numbers? Obviously, they have people whose entire job is to calculate those numbers. But when you get down to it, it's very easy to go to the box office and say, Doctor Strange made this amount of money opening weekend. It made this over the course of the entire run. And then the bean counters can go, okay, well, we will approve these shows based on that strength. You go into Disney Plus. Well, WandaVision had this many people watching it, but what's the value per watch? Because each person's watch value is different and so on. So it does make sense that this is where they would be looking at it.
And I also think as well, this is not just Disney. This is happening across all of the platform, all the other streamers. They're all now at the point of going, we've been spending a bucket ton of money on all this stuff, and we've had in fairness, I would say we've had so much from different platforms to the point where you couldn't actually watch everything because there was too much coming out. And this is not, and I said, this is Netflix, Paramount, Peacock, all the different things. There's so much has been coming out, and they've all been spending money to get us subscribed. And they've come to the conclusion that they're spending this much money, but there's only so many subscribers, and there's only so far we will go. We are seeing consolidation. Showtime and Paramount Plus this week they're kind of putting together a merger. We're seeing. I even saw yesterday. I think MGM Plus and Stars and Amazon are all kind of doing bundles and stuff. We're seeing them kind of consolidate together because chasing that rainbow of Netflix costs too much money. And producing these Marvel shows, and I think especially like what we saw last year with them overlapping with the Star Wars stuff, we will not see that. I think again. I don't think we'll see that again for years, if ever.
Yeah, probably not. It depends on your definition too, though. It's not going to be the high budget things, but like X-Men '97 might also overlap with something the way Bad Batch might overlap with something or the equivalent. And we're, for Star Wars, we've got a couple of things dropping on May the 4th. So there's different content coming in there, but that's also this is the Star Wars holiday. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, I mean, there's also Lucasfilm are going to have to cut back on what they're doing. There's apparently been a big push on them to get back into doing cinema releases because obviously they bring in billions, whereas the TV shows, we're still going to get free shows this year. And we are probably, we're probably going to, I think we'll probably end up seeing them drop down to maybe 2 a year from next year as well. But if they're 8 episodes a piece and you've got them and Marvel, you're looking at probably around about 30 to 35 weeks of the year. Throwing some animated projects and the movies, you can easily get at least one of them out. It's just a shame in some way that Disney Plus is so reliant on them as the draws, but it's a real odd one because I mean, you can see that they are shifting the focus away from just making originals in the same way they used to. But yeah, and also I'm wondering, I think the cinema releases, they're still very much going to be focused on. They'd rather have 4 movies out than 4 shows out.
Mm-hmm. I think Star Wars, though, it's also a much more obvious example of, having too many shows or maybe not putting enough behind any particular show really hurt it, because the quality difference between Andor and Book of Boba Fett last week was massive, and even Andor and Obi-Wan, which should have been the pillar show. Obi-Wan should have been, the big one there was on, and I did enjoy it, but there were also moments in it where you're just like, where's the budget in this going at all? For me, it was that scene, I think after like the 3rd or 4th episode, where Darth Vader is holding the transport that's trying to get away. I'm like, this looks like it's part of a Disney ride, not part of a Star Wars movie or show.
Yeah, I think we're really going to see a shift away from this. Just it's kind of like, if it almost feels like we're going into Bob Iger had said about we're going into like a cost consideration kind of stage of the business. And it does feel like Disney Plus is kind of we're going for a new phase. It's no longer shining and new. Now it needs to make money. It's like, you've been getting away with it. You got the end of next year, kid, to make some money. Now it's like, you've got to make some money by next year.
Also, keep in mind, this is not a surprise on the Disney side. With projects like this, and this is true for all of the streaming companies or video game companies or anything like that, when you launch a product like this, you expect to not make money. You are going to put it in at a low price point. You're going to put a lot of money behind the content because you want people to subscribe. In fact, this is probably happening earlier than Disney expected to, where they've gone, the numbers are much higher than we projected at this point. If you go back to the launch and, it basically was just an upward slope. Now they're at the point where things are normal. The subscribers are there. They need to make the money. This was probably not going to happen for another 2 years. So
it's
in a weird backwards way, this is actually a good sign, because it means that Disney is now confident in the platform and the growth has reached where they want it to be at, which I'm not happy as a consumer, but good for them, I hope.
Yeah, I think we are really seeing now this shift, and it's not just Disney. Paramount and Comcast are doing the same things. I think there's been like these blinkers up of like, that is chat, that is linear, and that is streaming, and now we're getting to the point of going, we're spending all this money. If we put them all together, it means we're saving money. And the Star Wars and Marvel are the kind of the key draw in to get subscribers. But the trouble is, it's kind of that situation. I feel like it's like, yeah, we've got you guys, you're subscribed, but we can't get any more of you. And I do wonder if like feedback from there being too many shows, consumers feeling a little bit confused with it all. I mean, the Motivator saga is complicated enough. Introducing a whole host of characters that people maybe were less familiar with. In one way, it's good for us as fans, but my wife said to me, as I said to her, like, do you want to go see Ant-Man? Because we're on our way, and she's just dropping me off at the cinema, and I'm like, just like, nah, I've lost interest. And like my mum and dad were like, oh, I don't know, I can't keep up with all. And it's just like, I'm like, okay, well, I know it's only a very small scope of people, but that's like, to me, that represents the bigger audience away from the fans. If they are talking about it, then I know it's hit a different level. When my wife says to me, "Oh, is Avatar still in the cinema?" Like, she never goes to the cinema. That's when I know it's reached a different audience. But yeah, it's going to be strange. I think I know last year when they announced all those shows, it was a bit like, well, the Star Wars, like we're gonna have like 2-3 things a week, and the audience just doesn't seem to be. And then that doesn't include other shows, like A Small Light and other things that don't maybe get the same attention because the Marvel and Star Wars just soaks up all that advertising. Because that's the other thing: advertising budgets, the budgets to make them, the budgets to promote them. They're, Bob Iger has said that he's going to be cutting back on how much they promote Disney Plus. Just that's the other side of things, and it's not just making a show for 100 million. It's then spending 50 to 100 million marketing it.
Right, and again, that's the sign that they feel like they've reached the number of subscribers that they're going to reach. Sure, they'll always be they're always going to hope for an upward curve on the subscriber graph, but if they're dropping marketing, that means they feel like for every dollar spent, you're not getting the money back in terms of people buying into the program. So
it is. I think we're at a point where we see it here in the UK. There's certainly certain things that they advertise. I've seen like the Black Panther movie being advertised on television. So a bus go by the other day with "Welcome to Chippendales" with the big Disney Plus logo on it. And there is going to be a limit to what you can definitely tell with Disney Plus here in the UK. They only promote certain things. I think we're at a point where they'd be better off doing like a multi-programmed like trailers where it's like, here's 3 shows that are out now or coming out, and focus and kind of do a less focus on one story and kind of going, because we have it here on some of the adverts. It's like, look what we've got. We've got Grey's Anatomy. We've got Star Wars, and we've got Marvel, and we've got The Simpsons, that kind of thing, rather than just focusing just on one show. But yeah, so we are going to see a bit of a slowdown. I think it's not might not be a bad thing, and then also if they spend a bit more money on visual effects, because there's a big backlog of trying to get that sorted, because every film and every series is just too much. But I think even the guy from FX said we were at peak television last year. They were spending so much, and also there's another issue that we don't really talk about too much. There could be potential writers' strikes coming up in a couple of months. So what they're doing is stockpiling shows for next year. So now they've basically, if there was a strike for a year, Disney Plus has got enough content in the can to ride that through now without any issues. That's why there's a lot of cancellations and stuff, because they want to get rid of, they're just trying to sort out all these problems before everything comes in. But yeah, very, very messy at the minute.
Yeah, I actually hope that the writer's strike goes well for the writers. The whole industry needs to overhaul how they pay their talent, the ones that are not on screen. So it'll be annoying in terms of content, especially if it drags out like it did previously. But I actually wish the writers good luck with that if they go forward.
I kind of go into the idea really of I'm not a huge fan of the residual system. Being honest, I think they should be paid. I think there's that kind of thing of paid up front more, and you do a job, you do it, you got paid, you made the show, and that's kind of it. Because the trouble with residuals is that if the show doesn't get picked up, they don't get any more money. So they would have made more. But also, the show gets more and more expensive the longer it goes on, because the days of it going out onto syndication and out onto other platforms, they are going to be going out probably now more to fast networks and stuff. But it's kind of a tricky one. I mean, I can see why it'd be better off probably for most people just to get a bigger chunk at the front because of the stream, and then but it's such a complicated system.
It's a double-edged sword, because if your show doesn't get picked up, then you're not really getting residuals. But on the other hand, if you contribute to a major show or a sleeper hit show, and you get paid $5,000 up front or whatever the industry minimum is, then you look at them, and it becomes $1 billion juggernaut thing. You're like, I got paid $5,000, and I'm actually a pretty critical component of that. But yeah, it goes both ways. And I'm actually a much bigger fan of the residual, because it lets the companies take a bigger risk. If I'm hiring a writer and a boom operator and all these things, then it's nice to be able to go, okay, I'm not paying you that much now because our budget's really low, but if we take off, you'll get a lot more, and you're more likely to draw in some talent doing that, as opposed to, well, now I've got to pay, a much bigger upfront, which means I need a much bigger budget to begin with, which means it's going to be much harder to sell it to the studios. But there's arguments in both directions. There's no perfect system, and honestly, all it comes down to is everyone just needs to be paid more to begin with. That's, I mean, any industry.
It's just it's catch-22, isn't it? No matter which way it is, it's always tricky at this point on both sides, because it is always a case of a balancing act. Ultimately, they do, everyone needs to get paid fairly for it, and it's also that kind of weird thing of hopefully as well, if with the thing is with residuals, it's the streaming, they need to give out accurate stats, because that's the problem, because they can hide the stats away at the minute so much easier than they could on linear. But also the whole industry shifted, the linear network, and then them going on to like syndication channels, and that's where they used to make all the money, was on the syndication networks. Well, that essentially I feel is going to become the fast networks, the Pluto TVs, where people are going to go and just kind of churn through this stuff. I don't really use. I had to look at Pluto TV, and it just looked like a load of, like, it looked like the back end of the Amazon section of just like stuff you never want to watch. It was a bit like, oh, okay. I mean, obviously, like Channel 4 and stuff, sometimes there's some things on that I might watch, but it's a little bit of an odd one for me. I don't quite get the appeal.
It depends on what market you're going for. So like you and I sitting at home, we're probably not turning on Pluto TV unless we really, really, really want to watch this show from the 60s or 70s or something like that. But on the other hand, you go into, say, a doctor's office or, someplace with a waiting area. Pluto TV starts looking like a very good option for them, because it's safe content in terms of, like, you're not going to worry about little Timmy finding about things you don't want him to learn about in the waiting room of the doctor's office. And it's
pamphlets are enough for that.
Yeah, that's true. But it's easier to distract the kids with the TV than it is, and it doesn't cost them anything, or the business rate is very, very low. So it costs the business very little to have this running, and it keeps people placated while they're sitting in the waiting room for an hour and a half, because the wait times explode or something like that.
I also feel like
the market.
But also I feel as well as this massive market with people that aren't subscribed to lots of platforms, and especially a younger audience that are trying to save money, but also an older audience that maybe like being like more like a traditional channel where things are just like fed. It's a very odd one. It's kind of I think this is the trouble, is television's changing so much and just trying to just sort it all out. But so it's going to be interesting to see what's happening with Marvel, but we'd love to know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. Okay, so let's move now on to what's coming up on Disney Plus in March. So we've had the US list, we've also had the Canada list, and we've had a UK list. The thing is with the UK one is it's just the highlights. So I'm just going to run through some of these things. I'm not going to anything that's kind of National Geographic or anything like that. We're not going to bother too much about. So a couple of highlights. Obviously, we're going to be getting new episodes of The Mandalorian every Wednesday right through the month, along with a new episode of The Bad Batch with a double episode finale at the end of March. So those definitely the kind of the key ones. I'm getting new episodes of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, a new Marvel documentary called Empower, which is basically all about female characters and people on and off the screen. Chan Can Dunk, a brand new film coming on March the 10th. That's a basketball film. Don't know too much. That's not even a month away, and we've not had a trailer or anything. I think we've got like one image. There was one thing that
I was gonna say, I think this is how I found out about the film, was the release list. I don't remember ever discussing this one previously.
It was about 18 months ago, I think we found out about it.
Yeah.
Now, there's one here which I thought was a little bit interesting, was Disney's NHL Big City Greens Classic live stream. It says, I think this is just US only. They're doing a live stream on ESPN of a game from Madison Square Garden. And that's going to be on ESPN. There's also going to be like a live stream, and I'm not sure if it's like an animated version with City Green people on Disney XD and on Disney Plus. I don't know if it's going to be airing with the like dual screen, or if it's just going to be. This is going to be really weird. It's the first thing that they've done. This is brand new. This is like really weird. I was just like, okay, this is really experimental. It's like, are we going to have like an animated game just running around for like 90 minutes? I don't even know how long a hockey game is, but yeah, this one's and you play hockey. So what did you think of this?
I didn't paid too much attention to this, to be honest, because a lot of there's a lot of specialty games in the NHL now, so it's just kind of like, oh, this is one of the outdoor classic heritage whatever games. It's the gimmick of the last couple of years. So honestly, I didn't pay that close attention to it, and I don't think that's going to change. Even finding out what it is, I'll check it out because it's good to know what's going on with the live streaming stuff, and Disney Plus is building more and more of that. But I wish them luck on it. I guess that's as much as I think about it.
I don't quite get it. It's like if you want to watch the game, aren't you going to watch the game rather than just an animated version? I don't know how this is going to work. It's going to be a bit odd. I'm glad they're trying something new. That's all it's going to be.
And that might be worth tuning in for, just to see what the heck they're going to do with it. We'll see. I don't know. I would honestly rather just watch the game, but or not at all. So
yes. Also, on March 15th, we're going to be getting 4 seasons of Doogie Howser MD, some library content. So the original series is arriving. I haven't seen it since the 90s. This is how Neil Patrick Harris became a household name. Yeah, great to see this one here. It would have been nice a year ago, but great to finally see this happening.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thought. They should have done it when Doogie Kami Aloha season 1 came out, and
they should have done it when it was announced, before even the series came out, to kind of get it on there.
Honestly, yeah, it should have been. But I'm glad it's coming on there now. I have zero interest in watching it ever again, but I'm glad it's there, and library content's never really a bad thing.
I will watch the first episode. I honestly can't see myself going through 4. I'll get the nostalgia kick from the first episode, and that will probably be like, oh yeah, this is bad, and that'll be the end of it. We're also getting Kif, a new animated series that's dropping on the same day. Turning Tables with Robin Roberts, 4 episodes. So this is the second season of I think it's the Good Morning America host, and she's just talking to different people. But wasn't a big fan of the first one. It feels such a random thing to have on Disney Plus, in terms of, it feels like daytime television. I mean, this is cheap. This is cheap television. This is like 4 people sat around a couch. I mean, this is basically a podcast. It's just like, I'm glad that this thing's managed to survive a second season. It's obviously going to be, I think, we're seeing a big shift in daytime television. Just this last week, loads of classic shows have been running for like 15, 20 years have been cancelled because they're not getting the views that they used to get. So they've got to try and find, where this audience is. It's for a different audience. It's not for everyone. It kind of gives off like Loose Women, like The View vibes to me. But I'm glad it's coming in at least.
Yeah, it's content for a different audience. It's not going to be the kind of thing that makes millions and millions and millions of views. But again, it's not that expensive to make, so it doesn't have to do all that well. And it's just something different. But the daytime television is really not doing well in the streaming era, because why am I going to turn on random game show versus just loading up Netflix or Disney Plus if I'm stuck on the couch for whatever reason?
Well, I'll tend to watch like This Morning, which is like a like to sat on the couch, a traditional old-fashioned like tea. But then like in the afternoon and stuff, I'll just check on TV shows or on Spotify or something. But I know, like in the pandemic, like with some of my staff back when we had the cafe and stuff, I'd be like, right, we're off, we're closed. We might be off for months. Please just don't not watch like daytime. You got, I'll be like, watch this show, this show, this show, this show. All the shows that they never want. Like Game of Thrones, we've got all these shows to binge. We've got the time now, so let's get on it. So it's definitely
It's funny how few people binged Game of Thrones during the beginning of the COVID pandemic instead of watching everything else. But that's more of a commentary on Game of Thrones than anything else.
Moving on from there, we got on March the 17th, we got Bono and the Edge, a sort of homecoming with David Letterman. I am a fan of U2. I've actually been, since they announced this, I've been listening to the best of albums, kind of in preparation for it, kind of and like, it's like, okay, I like about like 30, 40 of their songs, so I'm definitely in the fan. So like, I want to watch it. It just feels odd bringing David Letterman in, because we don't tend to get a lot of the late night talk shows. Like, wow, well, that's not a name I've heard for a while. It's like, this is, again, it feels it's content for adults and a slightly older adult, because I don't think it has the same appeal. Not the same audience that Olivia Rodrigo would go for. It's just like, but for me, for adults, I think this is I'm looking forward to it. This one should be fun.
Yeah, I'm not as big a fan. I like a lot of their older stuff. I haven't, and by older I mean like 80s, I guess,
Yeah.
80s, 90s. I haven't liked more of the more recent things, but I will check it out. And it is odd that Letterman's name is even on it,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming they're trying to pull in like two different groups of people to watch it and hope that helps the ratings.
Yeah, it's almost like it's definitely going for a bit of an older one. We're also getting on the 22nd of March a new animated series, Kaya and the Kimoji Heroes. That one is coming from E1. It's going to be like, I think that'll be global because they're basically launching a brand new platform. A new series called Restaurants at the End of the World that'll be airing on National Geographic next day on Disney Plus. Something that we will start getting much more used to saying moving forward to in the US, at least, because it makes no sense here because we don't have the channels. That's what annoys me. Like, I don't get it. Why not just have it on the same day and have an easier? It's out on Tuesday the 17th. Because if someone tunes in at 8 o'clock at night on Disney Plus because they've seen the advert where it says on at 8 o'clock or whatever, it'll be there. They won't be disappointed because it's where it is. I know it's like, well, it takes away from linear. Well, then it's going to take it. The different customers. They don't. It's next day. It just bugs me. It just doesn't seem such an old way of looking at the internet.
I think it's still just a compromise, and maybe it'll change at some point. But I'm not too plus about it. So,
speaking of next day on Disney Plus, on Saturday, March the 25th, we're getting the third season of Secrets of Sulphur Springs and the first few episodes of Saturdays, 2 brand new Disney Channel series. Now, one thing that actually I got brought up a little bit today was. So people are going, well, okay, so they've cancelled like Big Shot and they've cancelled Mighty Ducks and they've cancelled all these shows and stuff. And it's like, what are they replacing it with? And it's like, this is what they're replacing it with. They can duel up on these shows. And, you know, it makes so much more sense to do this with this audience of use it on the Disney Channel, use it on this. So those family friendly, I wouldn't even say they are sort of family friendly, more child focused live action shows. You're going to see this now. You're going to see all of them are just going to be doubled up on Disney Channel and Disney. This will be how it will go.
Also, I would get out of the thinking of a show getting canceled means it's getting replaced by something, because that is the linear way of thinking. Obviously, there's a time slot and the time slot just got freed up, so you have to put something into it. But there's nothing that says you have to replace a show in the streaming world at all.
No. Moving on from there, on Wednesday the 29th, new episodes of Mickey Mouse Funhouse, again, Bad Batch and Mandalorian. And finally, on March the 31st, we're getting Doogie Kamealoha MD, Season 2, all of the episodes at once. So I'm like, Friday release? Okay, try and spread it out a little bit. I don't mind that. I think that's a good thing. All seasons at once, all episodes at once, like the red alerts going cancelled. It's just like, we've seen this before with some of the Disney Plus originals. When they do this is not a good sign, people. If this thing makes a third season, I will be very surprised now. I hope not. I hope it does well, but this it sends warning flares, doesn't it?
It does. And with the cancellations that have been confirmed over the last week or so, this one would have to do like absolutely crazy numbers for it to survive into a third season. That's not a commentary on the show itself. It's just the chopping block is being actively used at the moment, and this seems like the obvious one.
Yeah, and I mean, this one is very much, it looks like it's focusing more on this like love triangle. Actually, might even be a love quartet kind of thing going on. Kind of interesting as well, because I think the Elizabeth Lee and the guy Milo, and I think they actually got together in real life at this event while filming it. So there's obviously going to have that little, usually that kind of, it will translate onto the screen, that there's a little bit more than rather than just like two planks of wood just like looking at each other. So usually,
I don't know. I've seen some pretty bland relationships in real life too. So
hopefully. So there's that one. Now we're actually getting a double episode or double dose of Peyton and Elizabeth Lee and Milo, because their other movie Prom Pact is coming out on the same day, the next day on Disney Plus. Having gone on the Disney Channel the day before. So we're getting, and I'm like, oh, why are you doing this, Disney? It's like two people, two romantic things with the same actors on the same day, a movie and a series. Move on. I hope they do. I don't think they will, but it just feels like what you're basically, this is the same audience is going to have to what it's like that you're just giving them a feast. If you like Milo and Peyton, you've just got a movie and a series all at once. Yeah, it just seems a little bit odd of just doing them both at the same time.
Yeah, especially since, even delaying it just a week, one of them a week, that wouldn't really make any difference. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, so there we go. So that's the US list. Just a couple of quick highlights here from the UK side of things. We're getting the first 10 episodes of the second season of Abbott Elementary on the 1st of March. We're also getting Empire of Light on the 1st of March. There's a new documentary called Finding Michael, which is all about a guy that got lost on Everest. That's coming out on the 3rd of March, but that's also coming out in Canada. I suspect it will be across Europe and in Australia. I don't think it's getting a US release. I don't know what's going on with that one. 17th of March on Hulu in the US, Disney Plus around the world, The Boston Strangler, a new film with Keira Knightley. Also here in the UK on the 29th of March, we're getting the entire season of Kindred, which has already been cancelled. So I've got no interest in watching that in the slightest. It's like, you've held it back for 3 months and you've already cancelled it. It's like, yep, I am not wasting any of my time on that, because that's the end of that one. Arrested Development seasons 1 to 3 on the 22nd of March. Unprisoned, a brand new series from the Octave Collective, is dropping onto Disney Plus around the world and on Hulu on the 10th of March. We're also getting the same thing as well with Up Here, a new comedy series. You're getting the entire series on the 24th of March, Hulu again in the US. We're also getting Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur on the 1st of March, along with the FX series Black Narcissist. And a couple of quick highlights from the Canada list that we've not already mentioned. I'm just going to go down here, see if I see anything. Oh, History of the World Part 2. That's going to be dropping on March the 6th. 2 episodes a day for 4 days on Hulu in the US. No word yet if we're going to be getting it internationally. I think it's Australia's getting it. No word yet on the UK. Also, I know here in the UK we're getting Grey's Anatomy and Station 19. We're getting new episodes of that back from the 8th of March. And looking here at some great Sundays are going to be great for Disney Plus subscribers in Canada. You're getting your animation back with new episodes of Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, The Great North, and The Simpsons. That's like, blimey, that's a good lineup for a Sunday for new content. Other new things as well dropping throughout the month include new episodes of How I Met Your Father, along with Tokyo Revengers. I think that's it in terms of the major new ones. But the thing is, the Canada list is kind of like a hybrid between, it gets all the decent stuff from Hulu and all the American stuff as well. So it's a kind of weird thing of like, I look at like that list for like the UK, like, yeah, okay, you throw in like Boston Strangler, Empire of Light, Grey's Anatomy, Station 19, along with some of those other shows like Unprisoned stuff. Like, yeah, it's a good month. It's great, lots of new stuff coming in. Lots of stuff that keep me entertained. So I'm looking forward to watching some of that stuff.
What about you? There's a big lack of Marvel content, but
you got Empower.
There's a big lack of Marvel. Not to get on the content of that, but it really does feel just like it's a fluff piece, kind of patting ourselves on the back piece. Hopefully it'll be good.
Well, I think it's dropping on International Women's Day. So that's why.
Okay, that makes much more sense then.
Yeah,
that doesn't change the kind of like back patting nature of it, but hopefully it'll have some actual legitimate content in it that makes it worthwhile to watch. But
yeah, so that will be good to watch. So that's kind of the lineup there, right? So that is what's coming up in March. So what kind of jumped out at you other than The Mandalorian?
Nothing.
You're not ready for Doogie Kamaloa MD season 2?
No, honestly, looking at the list, we skipped over the National Geographic stuff, obviously. So there's things in that I'm looking forward to. But honestly, in terms of the original content, not a single dang thing. I can't say I'm looking forward to March in terms of content for Disney.
No, I feel for me, excluding The Mandalorian and Bad Batch, Boston Strangler is one, a good movie from 20th century. You can't go too wrong with that one. Unprisoned, I'll give that one a go. Up Here Again, another show I'll be checking. I have got the History of the World Part 2. I have the trailers are just not appealing to me in the slightest. It's like all these celebrities, I don't know half of who you are because you're an American comedy artist and I don't know who they are. I don't know. That show's just not screaming to me to watch at the minute.
I really want to like that, and I'll give it a shot.
I'll give it a go. Yeah.
Because I love Mel Brooks's work, especially things like Spaceballs and Blazing Saddles and so on. But yeah, even knowing, well, actually, I don't know most of these artists either. Even having that aspect of it, the trailers are just completely uninteresting. It's missing some spark. Yeah,
it's just not. It's missing. It's like here, like this character that I'm playing. Like, yeah, I don't know who that is. It's like, again, this is sometimes the trouble of like a little bit sometimes caught up in American history where it doesn't translate as well. Like, well, I don't
know. to be fair, the actual content itself doesn't matter. The actual narrative itself doesn't matter. You could pick characters from any single point of history in any part of the world. The point is to have the Mel Brooks jokes and the witty little observations about life and the fun wordplay and that kind of thing, which you're not going to get in the trailer. To be fair, that his jokes, they tend to come one after the other. Some of them have build up and so on. So like whether the history is American or African or Asian or European doesn't really matter. But the jokes, just the jokes that we do get in the trailer, like, I guess that's a little clever. Okay, cool. But we'll have to wait and see because his humor doesn't always translate into a bite-sized format of trailers.
No. Right. Okay. So let's now shift gears. Now let's talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Right. So we are gonna go into spoilers at some point in this one. We'll try and keep them to the minimum, but there's going to be some that we're going to just talk about. So if you haven't seen the film, this is your opportunity to drop out, and then you can come back when you've watched it. Or do you want to do a quick drop before you go?
Just a really, really quick one. I won't even do the review. I'll just say the second stinger, the one at the very end of the movie, not really worth sticking around for. If you're already going to, then it's just a clip from an upcoming show. It's not even like a proper stinger. It's something that's literally from an upcoming show. It'd be the same as like when Spider-Man, I think, had a clip from Doctor Strange. It's literally just a clip. It's not even a trailer. If you've got nowhere to be, go ahead and stick around. But if you
really need to pee, just go pee.
Yeah, it's not something you need to stick around for.
I just was like, the credits come on the text wife. I'm just watching the credits, so then I'm on my way. So she's on the way to pick it up. By the time the credits are live, I walk out, the car pulls up. So perfect timing.
So that's the one thing, and then I guess give the no context review. Watch Good, Bad. What were?
I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. I thought it was a real fun, easygoing blockbuster film. Easy to watch. Lots of action. It was kind of a bit Star Warsy in some way. I really enjoyed it. It was so much fun. It was. I came out of it. I was laughing through it. I enjoyed the action. I kind of came out and I was like, it was a lot of. I don't think it was. It was epic, but I think it was kind of there's a lot of expectations on this one to pull in. Like it was going to be bigger than it maybe was. I mean, it was pretty big in scope. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun, but I enjoyed both Ant-Man movies.
Yeah,
I like the comedy aspect of the MCU. I know, like with Thor: Love and Thunder, that was one that people didn't quite hit the same. She-Hulk. I like having some humor in my movies. It's more entertaining for me. I like that. I don't need them all brooding. If I wanted that, I'd go see a DC film. I like having a little bit of humor in it. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I enjoyed this quite a bit, but I also did like both of the other Ant-Man movies, including Ant-Man and the Wasp, which seems to be one of the ones that gets lost in the shuffle of whatever phase it was in. But mostly what you said. It's a lot of fun. It's very colorful. The characters are really good. The villain is actually pretty solid in it. And we'll get to see him again in a manner of speaking. And then it's got that humor. when people complain about the humor, though, I think that's more along the lines of like you have a very serious moment and it doesn't let the serious moment last. It undercuts it, like in Thor Ragnarok, I think is the classic example. So not Love and Thunder, but Ragnarok.
Hmm.
Asgard is getting destroyed, and it's supposed to be this big moment. Their home is literally like blowing up in front of them, and then Korg's like, "Oh, the foundation's gone too," and as like that stinger joke to kind of undercut. And that's, I think, what most people are complaining about when they say the humor.
I also think there's a big chunk of Marvel fans that don't like humor in any of it, and I think they want it serious all the time. And I would think going into Ant-Man 3, we know what the first two were like, so you'd kind of be prepared for that. It definitely felt a step away from those two movies. It was being in the quantum realm for what 99% of the film, other than being at Baskin Robbins. It definitely it felt a little bit different. It felt a little bit very out of where we normally see him.
Yes, it maintained the humor, but it felt much more like an epic thing, because that was the thing with both the first Ant-Man and the second one, was they didn't have the epic feeling as we were building up to like the big Thanos Avengers Infinity War event, or actually in between Infinity War and Endgame for the second movie. Whereas this one feels like it is very important to the overall story. You get a very big picture of one of the threads that we're following into a movie that we already know about, and I think it's got a different tone. And I think in terms of tone, this is probably the point where we cut it off. If you don't want spoilers, this is the place to turn it off.
Yeah. Okay. So now the spoilers are out of the way. Let's talk about MODOK. It's that kind of thing of like, I like in some ways what they did, but at the same time, it wasn't MODOK. It was something different. I kind of give him a pass on it because I actually think it worked quite well. It actually brought a little bit more of the first movie. It kind of brought the trilogy into like there was a connection. Yeah, and I like that a little bit, but I felt like with MODOK's kind of a big enough villain that he kind of could, we had the whole Avengers game where he was the main villain, and he feels like he could be a guy. And I feel like with the multiverse, they could still do MODOK somewhere else and then bring him in properly.
I hope they don't, though. I don't want the multiverse to be the reset button on trying to do characters again. It has worked for them so far. It's been nice to be able to go, oh, Black Bolt, the Inhuman show was was junk. And here's a chance to have Black Bolt again in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. And yeah, there's some fun to that, but I really don't want it to be the all right, we tried something with Taskmaster in Black Widow and people didn't like it, so we're going to bring real Taskmaster in from this other universe and or MODOK or whatever.
Yeah.
It does leave that avenue open. I hope they don't use it too much or use it very sparingly.
Yeah. I think it's more the fact that because MODOK's so different, because you don't have AIM and all the him being a major villain that could have been used in other things. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting how all that worked together. He wasn't. I don't think he actually was needed. They didn't need him in there. They could have just done. If they didn't have him, they wouldn't needed it. They could have just had another henchman or something like that.
I think they didn't need MODOK specifically, but he was a convenient way to bring that character, the Yellow Jacket character from the first movie, back. Because it was fairly definitively like, oh, he got crushed to death in the first movie, and then this way actually kind of like, oh, we can have the character. It closes an arc. It gives somebody for Cassie to fight or to redeem, depending on your point of view. It worked out fine in the movie, and honestly, I'm perfectly fine. I know MODOK is considered a major villain. He had his own TV show. As you said, he was the villain of the Avengers video game. But he's such a weird villain. Trying to do him in a live action movie was never going to be easy.
Yeah, the face kind of was really weird how it looked.
It's very, very disconcerting to look at with an actual human face versus a comic book face. But I actually kind of like that. Not the
and they leaned on it.
And they leaned in it. They just kept going at it. The aesthetics were weird, but I think that was actually in its favor because MODOK is supposed to be a weird looking character.
So I think that was pretty cool. Kang, he's so good.
He is very good. I care more about him in the villain role here than I did about Thanos in the entirety of Phase 1 through 3. I feel like he got more fleshed out as a villain in this movie alone. Plus, if you add in the scenes from Loki season 1, than anything we got for Thanos.
And I feel like he is going to be popping up in everything in the next 3 years. I think
Well,
he's going to
a version of him anyway. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing because it's funny because I was when I walked in this like teenager like said, "Oh, what do you think's going to happen to Kang?" And I went, "He's going to die." I was like, "What?" Because they can, because it's like this weird thing of they can kill him off because there's so many of them. You know, it's like, and you never quite get that. You might not get the one that you're after. Yeah.
That said, I would have kind of liked to have this particular version of Kang as like a long-running villain. It does feel like a bit of a cop-out to have a Kang and then kill him at the end of the movie, and then have a Kang and kill him at the end of the movie, and then there's Immortus and kill him at the end of the movie, etc. It would be nice to have a consistent Kang that you can identify with throughout Phase 5 and 6.
But I think they're definitely leaning in on the opposite of that, of going, we're going to use the multiverse. And that scene, obviously, in the credits with all the Kangs just set up like, okay, they're all this person, no matter what version he's in, is just, and that is got something.
Yeah. The one thing I wish they had done with that scene was to have more variations of Kang, not just variations of whatever vest he's wearing. So we have the 3 ones, the triumvirate, but then all the other Kangs functionally look like the same Kang.
Yeah.
And it would have been nice.
There was a few that looked a bit different. It's like alien versions of him.
Yeah, but not much ultimately, right? Or they had some battle scars, or the vest would be like more circular or more rounded or more square or something like that. That was kind of the variation that they went with, and I would like for them to go, different ones, or even use like a couple different actors in there too to highlight the fact, we've got Spider-Man over here, and he's got Andrew Garfield and
Loki.
And Loki and so forth. So I would have liked to see a couple other actors, but I know they're trying to establish this is Kang. If you see this guy in the movie, this is Kang.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty cool with how all that comes together. It's just really interesting to see how this comes in. It was kind of interesting that they kind of leaned in a little bit more on Janet and what she was up to, because obviously we hadn't really seen that. Bill Murray, they could have not even done that scene. It didn't seem to add anything to it.
That you could have done that with anybody. There were tons of different ways to do it. It was very much haha, we got Bill Murray, and here's Bill Murray being Bill Murray, and he ate an octopus, and now the octopus is going to eat him, and that was the scene. So I'm always down for more Bill Murray content, but if I was going to cut a scene, that would probably be the one to go with.
Yeah, it just wasn't needed. But overall, I mean, it was definitely. I mean, it looked very different. It was very much a volume kind of, filmed on a set. I kind of liked how it looked. I mean, it looked epic. I mean, nice to see him as big as like Giant Man and actually doing stuff a little bit more. And I thought that was good of him kind of doing it. And yeah, overall, I just came out of it and was like, that was just fun. It was just a fun. I would say like a dumb blockbuster, but it was just a fun superhero movie. To be honest, there was a kind of thing with it where they could have taken Wasp out of it and it wouldn't have made much of a difference. She didn't really have much in it.
Well, it really was her mother. Janet was the main character. The Wasp, the Hope Van Dyne was, of course, she's there more because she has to be. She does have important scenes, individual scenes, but you could have done it with anything. Like coming out of the portal at the end could have been Hope, or it could have been Janet, or anything like that. So,
or even just have Ant-Man actually win. That would have been.
No, I actually preferred him not being able to take.
No, I don't know. Did you catch? Because in the trailer there was I think he said, "I don't have to win. You just don't have to lose." And I don't remember that actually being in the movie. Was it in there? Or did they cut it out?
Yeah. I distinctly remember him saying, we both have to lose. That was, I mean, it was in that fight. So I remember maybe there was a different release for the UK version. I don't know. But I do distinctly remember that line in the
Yeah.
movie.
But no, overall, I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to watching it again when it drops on Disney Plus. Probably going to be, I'd say, probably 8 to 10 weeks, probably a little bit longer. It's really weird because this one's got a real strange phenomenon of, like, the critics were really split on it, but the audience score and the audience social media response to it has been really positive, along the lines of it's not got as much detail and it's not as deep as we maybe would have liked for some people. But I think there's that kind of thing like, oh, it was so fun and it was a bit stupid, but talking broccoli.
Did the broccoli ever talk?
I don't know. Yes, it did. Yeah, it chatted up Hope.
Oh, that's right. It did. Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like it was like, I think there was an almost thing of like, maybe the expectations of this were a lot higher than it actually was, and that's what the problem was. For me, I really enjoyed it. It was fun. I remember it just I wouldn't say it's like, having just recently watched like Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It's like, that wasn't a fun film to watch. Like, this was fun. This is you were laughing. There was big, blockbuster stuff. It was just a lot of fun.
Right, and Black Panther shouldn't have been fun, not in the traditional Marvel sense, because it's dealing with the death of Black Panther, even though that wasn't the story they were going to go with. They just had to kind of deal with some real life things that happened, and then also, of course, Shuri coming to terms with the death of Ramonda as well, which was a huge scene in that movie. And this is a different film. This is going back to more like phase 2, phase 1 kind of action blockbuster. Don't think too hard about it. Definitely don't think too hard about this. The longer you think about it, more pieces kind of like, wait, what? But when it comes to critics, and this will include us as well, remember, critics tend to watch a lot more than the average audience does. And so things that don't bring something new to the table often get dropped down lower than things that there's critics do tend to fall into that, like, this maybe wasn't that great a movie. And I'm not talking about Ant-Man here. Yeah. This maybe wasn't that great a movie, but it did something that I had never seen before, and so it stands out more in my mind, so I'm going to rate it higher. Whereas a regular audience member who has not become jaded by the same film coming out every single week for 3-4 years can go into this movie. Well, I haven't watched every single film, so Ant-Man is a lot more fun for me. Yeah. So always take critic scores, including ours, with a grain of salt and through that lens.
And I also feel as well, it's like, like with us, when we're talking about stuff, we're very open about what we like and what we don't like. Mm-hmm. And also I tend to not be, I tend to like big blockbuster stuff. Mm-hmm. And then that's kind of where I tend to come in. Like, some of the deeper stuff, just as like, I don't find it as interesting as half the critic stuff. I see them like raving about a movie and I fall asleep for it.
Right. And I kind of I have a bit more middle ground where I love the blockbusters, but I'm also perfectly down for a bit more of a cerebral film, something that makes you think, or is maybe a little more a lot more serious and contemplative about life kind of things. But you've got to be in the right mindset for it. If you're going into Ant-Man hoping for like a big philosophical debate on what the nature of reality,
don't be a dick.
No, don't be a dick. That's
the end. That's the name of the episode today.
That is the moral of the movie, as spoken by the giant head of MODOK. Yes. Don't be a dick. That's the. Yes. But if you're looking for like a scientific analysis of what multiverse theory is and what quantum theory is, this is not that movie. I don't think people are actually expecting that. I'm just saying, you go into a movie with expectations. You don't go into Avatar expecting, Titanic or something like that. You go into Avatar to see giant blue people fighting the evil humans and saving their planet from et cetera, et cetera. Us. Yeah, we're the bad guys. Sorry, spoilers. We're the bad guys.
Right. On that note, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon.
Later. And don't be a dick.
Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.